Some losses don't happen all at once. Sometimes you lose someone, and then years later you lose the last pieces of them too. And it feels like getting hit by the same car twice. My daughter's turning 18 in 2 weeks. And I had one gift planned for her that wasn't money, or a party, or a car, but something she's wanted her whole life without even knowing it. Because she never got to meet her mum. Not really. My first wife and I met in college. We grew up together, did the whole young love that actually lasts thing, and when we finally got married, she told me she was pregnant. We were over the moon. First baby. First everything. We went out and bought a video camera like clueless, happy new parents do, and we filmed everything. Not influencer style, not staged, just real life. Her laughing at me because I couldn't assemble a crib properly, us eating lunch on the sofa and talking to her belly like the baby could hear us. Little jokes, little moments. Those quiet days that don't feel historic until you realize they were. And we made a promise. We'd save the tapes and only show our daughter on her 18th birthday. Like a time capsule, like a way to hand her the part of her life she couldn't remember. Then, when our daughter was 2, my wife died. A drunk driver hit her on the way home. 1 second she was a person who existed in the world, and the next second I was a single dad in a house that suddenly felt way too big and way too quiet. I went into a dark place for a long time. I raised our little girl on autopilot. Friends tried to push me to date again, but every time I even considered it, it felt like betrayal, like I'd be replacing her. So I didn't. I just focused on surviving, on being the parent our daughter still had. Years pass. Our daughter gets older. She starts asking questions. She doesn't remember her mum's voice, doesn't remember her touch. She'd cry sometimes, not even from a specific event, just from the idea that everyone else seemed to have 2 parents in their memories, and she had a blank space. So I told her stories, I painted a picture, I talked about her mum the way you talk about someone you love and respect, so your child can carry them in their mind, even if they can't carry them in their memory. When my daughter was 13, I met my current wife at a family gathering. She had 2 kids of her own and had been through a divorce. We clicked fast. It felt easy, safe, like maybe life was finally offering me something that didn't come with a punchline. We got married a couple years later, and for the most part, we've been okay. But there's always been this tension whenever I mention my first wife. Not anger, exactly. More like discomfort that sits in the room with us. I never compared them. Never did that cruel thing where you say, "Why can't you be like her?" I'm not that guy. I talk about my late wife because our daughter deserves to know who her mother was. That's it. But my wife would sometimes say things like, "It makes me sad because I can never be like her." And I started realizing what she meant. My late wife had been a model and worked in fashion. She was beautiful. My current wife has had 2 kids. She's been through a lot, and she's insecure about her body. And no matter how many times I told her I love her exactly as she is, it was like she heard my words, but didn't believe them. A week ago, I told her my plan. That our daughter's 18th was coming up, that I'd saved those tapes for 16 years, that I couldn't wait to show her her mum laughing, talking, being real, that it was the closest thing I could give our daughter to meeting her mother. At first, my wife smiled, but then her face shifted, tight, uncomfortable. She didn't explode. She didn't argue. She just went quiet in that way that says the conversation is happening inside her now, not out loud. Later, she broke down crying and admitted the jealousy, the insecurity, the feeling of being second place to a woman who isn't even alive. I held her. I told her the truth. Love isn't a competition. My late wife is part of my past, but my current wife is my present. I chose her. I'm here. I'm trying. The next day she apologized and asked where I kept the tapes. I didn't think anything of it. I showed her the box in my closet. And I wish I could go back and undo that moment. Because yesterday morning, I went to get the box. I wanted to put the tapes in something nicer, a prettier container, something worthy of the gift. But the box wasn't there. I checked the closet again like it would magically appear if I stared hard enough. Then I checked every shelf, every corner, under the bed, in the attic, in drawers that didn't even make sense. I was tearing through my own house like a man looking for oxygen. Finally, I went downstairs and found my wife on the couch, watching TV like it was any other day. I asked her, "Where's the box?" She didn't even flinch. She said, "I threw it away." And my body did that thing where your heart drops so hard you feel it in your stomach. I couldn't process it. I thought I misheard. "What do you mean you threw it away?" She said it again, calm, neutral, like she'd thrown out old clothes. Then she added the part that made my vision blur with rage. She said I talk about my late wife too much, that I need to move on, and that throwing the tapes away was a head start. A head start. Like grief is a treadmill. Like you can just increase the speed and force someone to keep up. I don't even remember the exact words I said after that. I remember the sound of my own voice shaking. I remember yelling. I remember her face changing when she realized how far she'd gone. Because it wasn't just her throwing away my memories. It was her throwing away my daughter's mother. It was her throwing away the one thing my daughter has begged for without knowing it existed. It was her throwing away a promise that was older than our marriage. And then, when she saw how angry I was, she started apologizing, fast, panicked, like she could rewind time just by saying, "I'm sorry," enough times. But you can't untrash something like that. I ended up locking myself in the bedroom and crying like I hadn't cried in years. Not because I miss my late wife in some romantic way that threatens my marriage, because I do miss her, but that grief is a different shape now. I cried because I pictured my daughter's face on her birthday. I pictured pressing play. I pictured her hearing her mum's voice for the first time in her adult life. And then I pictured telling her, "It's gone," because someone decided their insecurity mattered more than her right to know her own mother. This morning I'm sitting in my office going through old files, old hard drives, old email attachments, anything that might have clips I forgot about, anything I can salvage. Because my daughter still cries sometimes that she never got to meet her mum, and I thought I finally had a way to give her that. My wife has been texting non-stop, apology after apology. Mutual friends are chiming in too, telling me to accept it, to get over it, that it happened over a decade ago. And that's the part that makes me feel like I'm going insane, because they're treating this like a jealous outburst. But it wasn't just words. It was an action. A deliberate, irreversible action, aimed directly at the one thing she knew mattered most. And now I'm sitting here asking myself the question that scares me. If she could do this, what else is she capable of doing when she feels threatened? Because I can forgive a feeling. I can forgive someone admitting they're insecure. But deleting my daughter's mother out of my home because it made you uncomfortable, that isn't insecurity. That's cruelty. So here I am, 2 weeks before my daughter turns 18, trying to rebuild a gift out of scraps, wondering if I'm overreacting or if I just got a glimpse of who I really married. So tell me this. If your partner destroyed the last living pieces of your child's parent out of jealousy, would you ever be able to look at them the same way again?